Hey there viewers, Eric O, Self-Made Auto. Thank you so much for your likes and subscriptions. You, our viewers, have been making our channel grow like crazy, and we really appreciate that, the thumbs ups and the likes on Facebook. So let's get right to it. Brought in this 2008 Chevy Cobalt just a few minutes ago for a typical PM, and as I was looking it over and checking the tire pressures and checking things out for the customer, I noticed the rear springs are broken. If you own a Cobalt or a Malibu, you'll probably be very familiar with what I'm talking about. This is a super common problem. The very ends of the rear coil springs break off, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to replace those. First thing we need to do before we even pull the tires off is we need to jack the car up and put it on jack stands, you know, if you're doing this at home. If you have a lift, just put it up on the lift. But it's important where you put the jack stand. On these here, you're going to want to put the jack stand around the pinch weld or anywhere, so as long as it's not on the rear axle, but the pinch welds on these are definitely strong enough. And the reason we have to do that is because we're going to have to be able to stick our floor jack underneath this cup on the bottom of the spring on the rear axle to control that. Because essentially what we're going to do is loosen up the shock on both sides, allow the rear axle to swing down, pull the broken springs out, put the new ones in, jack it back up, and put the shock bolts back in. Pretty simple task. You're going to want to begin by removing both rear wheels after you have your vehicle secured. Next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put your floor jack right here under the rear of the axle. You don't have to put a lot of tension on it. You don't want to pick it back up off your jack stands. So just pick it up until you see the spring just slightly starting to compress. I'm going to use just my muffler stand actually here. I'm going to let the car down on it, take a little tension off it, and show you what that's going to look like. That's it, just enough to compress it a little bit so we can unhook our shock. Now get a 21 millimeter and remove the lower shock bolt. Now just go ahead and lower your floor jack. That should buy us enough room to get that spring out. You can see how much movement that gives us in the rear axle. Make sure you're only doing this one side at a time, or, well, you could be in for a little surprise. Simple as that. That lower half is usually stuck pretty well, and you can see the other half of the broken spring on there. Now all we have to do is wait for the new parts to show up. As soon as I get here, I'll show you how to put it in. While we're waiting, I want to go ahead and remove the broken piece off the plastic isolator here. These factory springs are really tightly wound at the bottom. They get stuck on here pretty hard. Just kind of got to go around with a pry bar and work these things off. And just do the same thing on the top. You'll see this little foam isolator. They're usually junk. If you're real concerned about it, just get another one from GM. Now that you've got the two isolators off there, just go ahead and rinse all the dirt and crap off them. We got our new springs right from Moog. So if you look at this spring, you'll see it's what they consider, I think they call them a variable rate spring. You can see how it's more tightly wound up here. So just a general rule, if you're using Moog springs, now this is going to apply to any Moog spring. It may or may not apply to any other manufacturer, but with them, you always put the tightly wound coil up unless there's a white paint mark on the spring. If there's a white paint mark on the spring, you always put the white paint mark on it towards the top. So on these ones, there is no white paint mark, so we're gonna put the tightly wound coil up. So if you always just remember, tight to the top. I don't know, maybe it'll help you. You can see our isolators fit these springs relatively easily. We're gonna set them on there. We're gonna go over and just put this back in the car. Simple as that. Take your jack stand. Take your floor jack this back up just slightly, enough to line up the bolt in the shock, and we're going to tighten that back down, so I'll show you how to do that, but it's pretty simple. Well, that should be enough right there. Don't be afraid about getting it a little too high. These shocks move pretty easy, so you can just go ahead and line that up, no problem. Get my bolt stuck in here. Go ahead and wiggle that around. Once you're sure you've got it started, go ahead and snug it up. And then let down your jack. There you have it, viewers. You have it done. I don't think it really gets any simpler than that. Do the other side exactly the same way, just like I did there. Do one side at a time and you won't have any trouble. Okay, viewers, thank you for watching. I appreciate all your thumbs ups, likes, and subscriptions. If you want to subscribe to our channel, just click this little wrench right here, this one right here, or whatever side of the screen it's on, and that'll take you right to our subscription page. Once you've done that, give us a thumbs up on this video, like us on Facebook, and as always, remember that if I can do it, you can do it.